Hello to those watching this critique of my midterm critical review paper. My name is Nicole Newhouse. I am from Calgary, Alberta, and I am currently within my Master's of Engineering degree here at the University of Toronto. So my undergraduate education was in chemical engineering at Western University, but I have decided to change my field of focus and am now enrolled in mechanical industrial engineering, where my focus is on operations research and financial engineering. Hello. So as you would have read, my critical review paper focused on cultural impacts on the perception of the engineering profession. Starting off on a slightly rough note, I think my paper was weakest in the identification of issues and assumptions. In terms of identification of the issue, the paper does give an overview of how the engineering profession is viewed differently in different countries due to various cultural climates and traditions associated with those countries. However, I would give myself 3s here, as I could have been more clear on the thesis and the overall goal of the report, that being to describe other factors outside of culture that might have impacts on the perception of engineers, and just how significantly cultural attitudes do play a role on shaping those views. However, I don't think that understanding was seriously impeded. I just could have articulated it a little better earlier in my report. I find that in trying to cover as many aspects presented in the course material as possible, I ended up falling a little short in deriving a strong, clear argument, which is why I marked myself down in this section. For the analysis section in rubric B, I would score myself a 3 for methods and 4 for alternative points of view. The different perspectives of engineers in different countries due to a variety of cultural climates were clearly outlined. However, I think I could have been more clear in the articulation of the critique section and perhaps broken down or analyzed individual cultural impacts instead of applying other more generic factors that influence the perception of engineers, such as the downstream location of the profession, as well as the failure of our education systems to adequately push STEM programs at an early age. The information necessary for a full understanding, the complexities and limitations are discussed by providing examples of cultural attitudes in various countries, as well as other factors that might influence perception. For these same reasons as previously discussed, for alternative points of view, I believe I covered more than just what was presented in the course material and used some critical thinking to come up with other plausible factors that could influence the perception of engineers. I believe that the credibility of my resources and source material analyzed in rubric C granted me a score of 4. I gathered information from a variety of sources that analyze cultural influences on the perception of engineers in different geographical regions, in addition to relating the content of the course material presented by Professor Armstrong. I believe these viewpoints were explored in as much depth as possible in a 1,000-word count essay. For the limitations and conclusions for my report were both strong, and I believed I scored a 4 in these categories. However, for the integration, as I've elaborated upon previously, I think I could have structured the report in a better way to present my argument throughout my report, so I believe I scored a 3 in this category. In terms of creativity, I believed I scored a 3. I believe I delivered some new insights and reflected some in-depth consideration of the topic while also closely relating to the course material. However, I'm not sure that the outcome of my report was completely novel or unique, which is why I didn't score myself higher in this category. Rather, I was focused on integrating the body of knowledge I had learned throughout the course to date. In rubric F, I definitely believe I took a risk with this report. I tried to relate the material we had learned throughout modules 1 to 6, while also taking the alternative view in which culture may not be solely to blame. It definitely would have been easier to simply summarize the topics and not try to relate it to the real world. As a result, I definitely believe I scored a 4 here. In conclusion, I believe my report provides an exploration of topics in the history and philosophy of engineering, in particular the cultural influences on the perception of engineers in different areas of the world. I believe it succeeded in providing examples to support and counter the impacts of culture as a major influence to shaping views of the profession. However, my paper does fall a little short in stating a strong overall argument or theme from an early stage. The array of examples and perspectives referenced provided a rich context and insight to real-world applications of the content we have learned. The paper could have exhibited more creativity in respect to the outcomes. However, the communication was clear, and I believe I related most of the course content to a contemporary real-world example of history philosophy of engineering. So thank you so much for taking the time to watch this critique and to read my paper, and I really hope you enjoyed both.